This morning I did a live video with showing you how to check the engine to see what kind of condition it may be in as far as popping off the valve cover. Then I went through some other things on the Beetle body. Just going over the car here as I was working on it, I was adjusting the valves and just finishing up giving the car a tune-up. The valves were pretty good. Not a whole lot of adjustment needed, which was good. So we've got new valve cover gaskets on. But after everything was said and done, and I cranked up the car and it just wasn't running right. So I wanted to show you guys how you can determine if you have an intake manifold leak. Now, of course, you want to check things like your vacuum hoses, anything attached to the intake manifold. These boots right here are very susceptible to leaks. Best to do this on a cold engine because we're going to be spraying carburetor cleaner, which is flammable. You don't want any fires, and I would always recommend to have a fire extinguisher handy just in case you do. You just got to take every precaution here. What we're going to do is we're going to crank up the car. See if she'll start without me putting anything in the gas. Now, if you can hear, the car is running rough. Look at it shaking. That's bad engine mount. What you do is you take your carburetor cleaner, up a little blast right next to the intake manifold here. And you can hear that, the engine started running better. That tells us right there that we have an issue with that intake manifold boot on the one side. So as you can see, when I was spraying the carburetor cleaner right in here, what that is, because it's flammable, it was pulling that into the engine and it was igniting and was making the engine run smoother. I pulled this off just so there was better access so you could see. These boots do crack. Matter of fact, it doesn't even look like the clamp is seated properly on here. So I'm going to take the clamp off. I'm going to see what I can see in there. If I have to replace the boot, I'm going to have to take the manifold off back here. That's a bit of a pain because it's tough to get to these bolts. But you got to do what you need to do to get the car back in an orderly fashion. So for those of you just tuning in, I was showing you how to check for an intake manifold boot leak. Car was running kind of rough. Want to do this on a cool engine again. Sprayed a little bit of carburetor cleaner right here. The car started running better. So that tells us we have an intake leak right in this area here. Most likely this boot is no good. So in order to change that boot, you got to take off this end casting here. Got a nut in the front, nut in the back. We're going to take the clamps off the front and see if maybe, well, first thing we can do is just see if it's loose at all. Yeah, and it is loose. Look at that. Clamp is loose. So we're going to try tightening this clamp up first and see if that solves the problem. If it doesn't, then we're going to take off this intake end casting here and put a new boot on. So that one's loose. Let's take a look at this side. This side we didn't have any issue on. These are not loose. Alien or Predator, they're both kind of cool there, Action Figure Master. And hey Emmanuel, thanks for joining us. So that's next up. I'm going to go ahead and do this. But again, if you're going to check, make sure your engine is cold. Carburetor cleaner is flammable, so you got to be careful. Have a fire extinguisher handy just in case. You don't want to do it when it's hot. Just a couple quick blasts will let you know if it is sucking in this flammable liquid into the engine. And that's what we have there. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten that clamp up and we'll see what happens. I don't know if I can set this here and you guys can watch. Probably not. I'm just holding the phone. Let's see if I can put you going on. Of course, now that I set you in the tool bag, I need the screwdriver that's in the tool bag. Let's try this again, see if you guys can see in there. Looks like it wants to be blurry. Again, we got this one that's loose. I'm actually going to loosen it up a little more because I want to slide it around here. Doesn't look like this boot was seated properly. Probably whoever originally put it on. There's two kinds of boots here. There's black rubber and then there's red silicone. Hold on a second. Happen to have a couple of spare used ones of these that I got picked up somewhere. So this is the black rubber one. Obviously you don't want to be putting on a used boot unless you absolutely have to. If you're kind of stuck and you got no other choice, you got to do what you got to do to get on the road or have a reliable running car. The used boots can be used as long as they're not cracked. So you want to kind of push on the rubber, see if there's any cracks on there. If there's any cracks, there's really no point in putting this on because that's probably the same thing we're dealing with there. But you can see the clamp marks. I don't know how I managed to get a pair of these used from somewhere. I never usually save these. They probably came with a bunch of parts I picked up. But this is a pair of them. Again, only use them if you're in a pinch. All right. We're going to tighten this up. I have a feeling, knowing me, it's always the worst case scenario, which is a good reason why to tune in to this channel. Because if you guys are frustrated and you have problems when you're working on your car, chances are I'm just as frustrated and have just as many problems. This clamp may need to be replaced. Tighten both of these. All right, I'm going to crank it up. No guarantee that the phone's going to stay there when I crank it up, but we'll see. So guys, if you could see, that boot needs to be replaced. Tightening the clamp did not help the situation. I'm doing a live YouTube video. Got my neighbor stopping by. Anyways guys, I'm gonna let you go, but that's something you need to check out. All right, have a good day.